Welcome to day 2 of Metal Leaf. Now, earlier in the week, you were introduced with Metal Leaf and some stamping techniques. Well, today we're going to show you 2 more techniques.
Well, actually, we're going to show you 3. We're going to show you something with Dazzles, stencils, and an embossing folder.
Ooh, sound interesting?
Come play with us.
Well, here are 3 more of the metal leaves.
We have gold, variegated red, and copper. So this one is variegated, these 2 are not.
Right, and this has 6 sheets, 5.5 inches square, and each of these has 25 sheets.
Right.
And just to show you, copper is one of my very favorite finishes. And so just to show you how bright and shiny and glorious it is. There you go.
Just like a copper bottom pan.
Yes, it is, except a brand new one, not one that
Right.
I had. Okay, enough about that. And we're going to go first into using it on this card with Dazzles.
With Dazzles.
Yes.
So this is using Dazzles and double-sided adhesive too.
Right. And so this happens to be Enchanted Moments. Just really any image you want. I like the black against the copper, my personal favorite, but you could certainly do multiple things. Again, it just is such a glorious finish. Just absolutely love that.
It's beautiful. So I've got something over here. I can show you how that is done.
Bring it in.
So bringing in my craft sheet with my elements that I will be using. I've got here a double-sided adhesive. This is the kind that we sell. It has the graph on one side. It's covered on both sides. The adhesive is in between. And here are the Dazzles that were used. So we started by removing, you cut a piece of the adhesive and then you remove that top layer. Oh, that's always kind of tricky. And usually I kind of get that ready ahead of time, and I didn't do that.
You did it this time.
So working on it.
Okay. Don't take it away.
There we go. So I'll remove this side. Okay. There we go. And so now you've got the adhesive there. I'm going to hold on to this and show you why in just a moment. I'm going to remove that butterfly. This one was, the large one was used. So you take the butterfly off and you place it right onto this adhesive side of that sticky part. And then you're going to go ahead and cut this out, following around the outside edges of the butterfly. It's kind of nice if you put it on there so that it's flat too. That helps tremendously.
We ask for so little.
Now, the reason I held on to this is because I wanted to mention, when you're trying to cut this out, your fingers kind of get sticky while you're trying to cut around it, and so I keep this and I place it on there and hold on to it while I'm cutting around. It makes it really easy, and you can just move that around as you're cutting. So once you've done that, then you have, here's this butterfly that's already been cut out. So now the back, I've left that covering on there, and here's the sticky side in between those areas. Now I have my copper leaf here. And I'm going to go ahead, because that's already adhesive, I don't need to use a glue of any kind. I can just get to a piece of the copper. And I don't have to put that whole piece on there. It does tear really easy, as you can see. I can just tear off a little piece of it, and just big enough to fit on that butterfly. Oh, there we go. And if you don't get a piece big enough, you can also put them on in small pieces. It doesn't have to be one large piece.
Again, like we talked about the other day, you can use all the bits and pieces, so it doesn't disappear on you.
In fact, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So I've got that stuck on there. I'm going to grab another one of those pieces and stick it here. There's another piece floating around.
Want another one? There you go.
Just to get it all covered up. There's even pieces on the edge here that I could tear off and place wherever I've missed. But it's there. Now I've got it all covered, all over, and then I'm going to start burnishing it with my finger a little bit to get it stuck. You know, it's right away it's going to start removing it from the areas that we don't need it to be in. I like
areas where there was no adhesive.
Where there was no adhesive. So I'm going to just keep doing that a little bit. And at this point, you can use the technique with putting the acetate on and burnishing it like that if you want to make sure it's getting down into those areas. But you can see this is actually working just fine. I don't have to overwork it. Okay, I'm going to shake some of it off. Try to get some of it off my fingers.
You can store it into like a Tupperware container or something just to keep them all together, because they do have a tendency to flitter about.
Then I'm going to use this stipple brush to go ahead and remove some of the excess and just work in circles. Just keep working.
And that's going to remove the area that's sitting on top of the black dazzles, which is obviously the area that you don't want. But look how easy that is.
You can see so you just keep working at it and it removes it. And kind of, even a back and forth worked in between on those long lines of the dazzles there.
And that double-sided adhesive is a special adhesive kind of formula. It is just sticky enough to hold the metal leaf on. It also does really well with like the micro beads. So,
so you can
isn't
see
that striking?
There it is. It's ready to go. And then all you have to do is remove that backing, that adhesive backing, and it's ready to stick on your project.
Just like this. And isn't that just gorgeous? So we did it on the butterflies. You could certainly do it in the border. You could do it lots of other areas. And just so that you know, in this particular one, we used the Design Toolkit number 5 template. And as you can see, that's where our scroll area is coming from and the circle inside. And that card doesn't have an inside. So we're going to move right on. And our next one is a scrapbook page. And look at this. Now, this is using a stencil. And it happens to be this one. It's from Crafter's Workshop. And you can see it's got this beautiful flower, but surprisingly, it also has words, and that was a really nice mix with this one.
Right. So you can mask off some of the words and just use part of it, and get the look that you want there.
So we've got live with passion, laugh with pleasure. And in this case, the copper and the gold were used. So a mixture.
A mixture. And it was done with the embossing paste first, and another product that goes along with this metal leaf, and it's the Stamp and Stick glue pad kit. Looks like it comes like this, with the Stamp and Stick glue pad and the actual glue, the refill glue. And you start by priming that glue pad with the glue, and then you'll be able to use that on your projects.
But first,
bring back in the craft sheet. And here's what I did. I already went and used the embossing paste with the stencil. I went ahead and did the flower along here, and I used just one word.
And you used the white embossing paste in this particular case.
Right.
And you did let it dry.
I let it dry. You have to let it dry for about an hour. You can heat dry it a little bit, but I didn't want it to bubble up, so I just went ahead and let it dry. And then the next thing I'm going to do is set that stencil right back on top of it, line it up, and get it. There we go. And I didn't bring sticky notes. I was going to sort of mask these off a little bit with sticky notes. And I'm going to get my Stamp and Stick glue pad here.
I think Post-its are going to magically appear from John. So
Post-its, cool. So I'm going to put some right here. There's one, just so that I can get around that word and not have to. And I think that's probably all that's...
Is that all you need?
No.
I do have a whole pad here.
Yeah,
you could go wild.
I will use them.
That's sort of like they did on the April Fool's Day one with sticky notes.
I don't want to get it around the edges a whole lot, but I'm not going to worry about it. There, that's enough. Okay. So now I've got the glue pad, and I'm going to go ahead and use a cosmetic sponge to apply this. I'm a little worried if I use the glue pad, it will put too much on there. So remember, we don't want to drench this with the glue. The difference between this, the Stamp and Stick glue pad, and the flitter glue that we used a couple of days ago, is that this glue is going to have to be heat set before you put the metal leaf on.
Right, it's a different formula.
It's a different formula, and one of the reasons for that is that it's just too kind of glossy or slippery, and the metal leaf will slip around on it. So with this one, you just want to make sure that
What was too slippery?
the glue gets a little
This
slippery.
glue?
This will get a little
okay.
slippery, and the metal leaf will kind of slide around. So you have to heat set it so it gets to a tacky state.
I see.
And
okay.
not a gooey, kind of a slimy state. You know what I mean. So there we go. I'm just going to continue down.
And having the stencil on top, it really allows you just to get that glue exactly where you want it.
Right where you want it. If you put too much glue on there, it's going to ooze out underneath that stencil.
No oozing.
Right. Now I'm hoping that I got all. What I do is I sort of look sideways. You can't see me doing that, but I'm looking sideways to make sure that it's a little bit glossy all over the image. I hope I got all of the little areas. That should do it. Then I remove the sticky notes and the stencil. I think I can do it in
All
one
together.
fell swoop.
Yep.
There we go. And then I'm going to heat it.
Okay, we
With
want
the
to
heat gun, I'm going to move that
move
leaf.
the metal leaf
I have some of the
away.
metal leaf over there, and that will fly. Might just do it anyway.
Okay.
Even from over there. So when I'm heating this with the heat gun, what I want to do is I want to heat it, the instructions say to heat it about 30 seconds. The trick is that you're going to heat it until it's not super glossy looking. I don't want to get too close to the embossing paste because I don't really want it to bubble up. So just kind of heating from above, not super close, and just getting it to where when you touch it with your finger, it's a little bit tacky, but it's not sticky. So that's what I've got. It's got a little bit tacky, but it's not sticky. The whole thing isn't coming up with my finger.
You were about 2 inches away from the paper.
Okay, about 2 inches. And now I bring this back, and I'm going to start first with the red. Oh, I think
the copper.
The copper, right. The copper is down here, and I think I did that
On the flower.
On the flower. So here's the copper leaf here. Remember, this is so flighty. Yeah.
Do you want to bring any of that in?
Well, I could.
You could. It was on the bottom of Liv.
Oh yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
I'll put some of this on the top of the flower just to make it
Okay.
easy. So kind of a flat right there. Okay, there we go. On the top part of the flower, and then I can tear off the part I don't use there. And then I use these little pieces. I can put them along the bottom of the Liv part, and they start to stick onto it right away.
Which is exactly what you want.
Oh, of course. A little piece of there. I'm going to try to rub a little bit of away because I'm actually going to add some gold on there, and I want to try to keep them a little bit separate for other uses. Make sure I'm getting it on all those parts. There.
Because you certainly wouldn't want to just do one color when you can do two.
But
huh?
of course. Oh, it looks beautiful with
Now you
two,
brought
that
in the
on
gold?
there. This is, yeah, I have the gold over here now.
Ah.
So I'm going to tear off a piece of that gold. You can see how delicate it is.
Very much so.
I'm going to put that up on the words up above. Sort of pat it down. And you can always add little pieces to anything that you've missed there. And then I'm going to, in the efforts of time, I'm going to take a big piece and just put it on the rest of it right there.
Tap, 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 tap.
Yep.
You can actually see it.
Where it's adhering, right.
Yep.
And sort of move it off, a little bit off the edges, and you can just move it around and keep sticking it on as you're, and I'm peeling some of it off as I go. Okay, some of the excess I'm going to peel off. I'm going to try to set that aside. And then, once it's on there, I like to do, at this point, my little trick of using the acetate, putting it on top and burnishing it. Okay, the difference between getting the leaf on embossing paste as compared to putting it on a stamped image, it's not going to be as glossy of an appearance. Not that it's entirely glossy on a stamped image, but the embossing paste has a little bit of texture, so it's going to hold on to that texture. And yet that's what you're going to see. So I am embossing it down.
And again, you're just getting on the top of the embossing paste, not
Right.
the sides. I mean, not that it's a giant amount of difference, but
Right.
yeah.
And I'm going to move it down. Make sure that I'm embossing that well on the whole piece. So I do take a little bit of time to make sure that I've gotten every area before I move on. And then I'm going to go back to my stipple brush and start removing.
Now you could have also used the scoochie foam, right?
Yeah,
Or,
the scoochie would work too.
Okay.
I like this because with the embossing paste, it gets down in the little crevices.
oh, gotcha. Okay. As opposed to a stamp that's flat.
Right. The scoochie works great too. I kind of had this handy.
Yeah. Boy, that's pretty. It just sort of reveals this glorious
I'm
piece.
going to shake it off a little bit.
Oh, I do like the gold and the copper. Very nice.
And then you can keep working it in a little bit. You can get around those little detail areas. And circular is great. Back and forth is good too. I like circular motion. So as you can see,
Okay.
that's what we did for putting gold leaf onto the embossing paste.
So gold
There's
and
that.
silver, excuse me, gold and copper. I think you can really see it well there. Very, very pretty. And this is a scrapbook page, so we'll back up just so you can see. I love the one with passion where they're kissing. I think that's great.
Yes.
And the lid with the flower is just a really pretty kind of frame to what's going on with these
Right.
photos.
This is great. This is the homeward bound paper. And after I put it on here, I noticed, I kind of want to see those a little bit. So I did just a little bit of pen work around the images, just a little bit away, so you can sort of see a little
That
bit of
helps.
the shadow.
Yeah, very pretty. So fun photos, a wonderful page. I love these phrases with it too. It just works so well.
Yeah, there's very little amount of journaling had to be added to that page.
Which is sometimes an effort. So we've done copper and gold. Now we showed you the red variegated, and here it is used. We've got a little bit of stray gold around here, but here is the variegated red, and this has been used also with a stencil, again by Crafters Workshop, and this is the ring doily. But look at how gorgeous that is.
Right, so that's the same technique that you just saw me use, and that's with embossing paste, although I think this was done with gold embossing paste.
And this was done onto suede.
Onto
paper.
suede.
Feel it.
Amazing.
Yeah,
see
but
that.
you could do cardstock too. It just is gorgeous. So you just want to look at your image, whether it's Dazzles, a stamp, or a stencil,
Right.
as to how that metal leaf is going to really be affected.
Right.
What I love about this is that in the red variegated, you've got gold, you've got copper. This was put on the silver hammered paper as well as the purple suede. So just a really fun combination. And of course you are noticing that it was just cut off.
On the edge of the page.
Just on the edge, right, just to do a little bit. This card wasn't finished on the inside, a little bit of gold border Dazzles on the edge. Now, so we've done Dazzles,
Right.
we've done the stencils,
Right.
but you said there were 3, so that
There
must
were
be this
3.
last one I have?
Yes, it is.
Okay, look at this. My goodness. This is an embossing folder, and I'm seeing variegated, I'm seeing gold, I'm
And lots
seeing
of shine.
copper.
Right, and it's done on acetate.
Okay, Missy, what did you do?
Well, I used
Explain yourself.
I used the dandelion embossing folder. Oh, that's just going to be everywhere. Don't worry about that. The dandelion embossing folder, and I used it on acetate.
Okay.
And then I used the process that I'm going to show you in just a moment to apply the glue to the acetate, and then I did the gold leafing on that.
Now, the glue that you used is the Stamp and
It's still
Stick?
the Stamp and Stick glue
Okay.
pad, but I used it with a brayer. So here's the
Okay.
brayer, the Stamp and Stick glue pad. I've got my acetate. Okay, so this stuff
You're going to do this, huh?
I am going to do this. I thought, yeah.
No,
you want
that's
me to.
fine.
Okay. Well, this stuff is sort of flying all over
It
the
is.
place, but we're going to take care of that later. And so I'm ready to go. I have the acetate ready to go. It's a little bit hard to
Let's
see
scoot this over a little bit.
here, but the main point of using this with the brayer, getting the glue on there, is you want to try to keep the glue only on the image. If you want to take time and sort of mask that off with a little bit of Post-it notes, you can do that. So maybe I'll do that just on the big areas. I want to leave those little pieces exposed. So maybe just on a couple of the big areas. You don't need to spend a whole lot of time on that. But the main point of using that glue pad is that you have to remember it's going to have to be heat embossed a little bit. But it can be done from a distance so that you don't ruin the acetate. It might warp it just a tiny bit, but it won't do too much to it. So I'm going to start by brayering across.
And by the way, we are working on an acetate that will be heat resistant. So
great.
that will be coming out.
Yeah, that'll be wonderful.
In another month, so patience.
Wonderful. So I'm making sure that I get glue all over this. I don't want it to be a really thick application of glue. I just want it to be lightly all over that brayer. And then I'm going to start on the image. Try to just keep it on the image. One thing that I will mention, if you get it off the image onto, what I'm trying to do is getting it on the embossed image only and not on the rest of it, which I can see it's sort of going on it a little bit here. But afterwards, you can remove some of the gold leaf with rubbing alcohol and cotton swab or something like that.
Or even if you see it at this point, like I see some down at the bottom, you could rub it off.
That might work a little bit.
Yeah.
It's tricky once you get the glue on there.
You know, just ask your friend who's sitting next to you to double check where you have your glue,
so
and it'll be fine.
I'm pretty sure it's going to go in a little bit in some of the areas that you don't really want it. But also I have that, this that I used before, I'm going to make sure I got that on the middle of the dandelion. Okay, and now that I have glue on my fingers, I'm going to be gilded, as you see.
Lovely.
And so I'm going to remove these, and now I'm going to heat set it.
Okay, and I'll move your craft sheet.
Thank you. So, like we said, we want to do this from a distance, and it doesn't take very long to just changing from a glossy look to kind of a matte look on the glue itself. I'm keeping my distance. I'm keeping it up at least a good 4 inches away from the acetate, and I just keep moving it around. It doesn't take very long, and then when you test it, it should be tacky, but not. Now see, it's still pretty sticky. So I'm going to do it just a little bit more. Might be a little sticky, but it shouldn't be too sticky, and it shouldn't be kind of a greasy feeling. That ought to do it. Then I'm going to apply the gold leaf. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to put the red variegated piece up on the dandelion.
We haven't seen that, so why don't you show a little bit of that?
Well, it's stuck to my fingers.
It is.
But you can see those little lines all over it.
It's getting close so we can see the variegation.
I'll lay it down. You can probably see it better.
Okay.
There, can you see it?
And same thing, don't worry about it wrinkling because you're going to be messing with it anyway.
And I'm just going to stick those little pieces wherever they need to be, which they're definitely sticking.
Yes.
Tap that down like that. And then I'm going to grab a piece of the copper. Copper? Yeah, I didn't grab the copper. But look. See all of this extra stuff? I'm going to do something different. Here's a bunch of copper and gold mixed together. I'm just going to take those pieces and I'm going to put them right on there like that.
So do your scrapbook page first and then do this, right?
This is a mixture. This is fun. I'm going to mix all of them all together.
There you go.
Neat. Just rub it around. It's the same stuff. It just gets in these small pieces.
Right. And that's what's nice. I mean, I really hate throwing things away, let alone something that's pretty and shiny.
All right, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm going to stop there. But at that point, I like to take my acetate.
Same process.
Burnish it. Now, if you're doing this on cardstock that had been embossed, you wouldn't want to push too awfully hard.
Oh, right.
Because you don't want to push down the embossing. So I'm just lightly sort of running it around, trying to make sure it's getting on things.
Okay.
Looks a little messier because I use those pieces over there.
But it won't.
But it won't. And then I start removing it with the stipple brush. I wouldn't use the scoochy pad on the acetate because it'll probably scratch it.
Right. So nice to have an option.
Right. So this just starts removing it. I'll show you up in the around the dandelion. I'll show you how that part looks there. You can see it.
It kind of starts magically appearing.
Right.
Very nice. Okay, and then going over to the swirls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to bring your finished card in.
So you can see that.
Yeah. So here we go. Scoot the brayer over. And so you've done this, placing this piece on top of your card. So, but it looks like you glued it down a little bit too.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, the whole piece. Actually, I did glue down the acetate with some zots just in a couple of strategic places behind the Dazzles, behind the dandelion.
But
so
you're getting
setting on there.
You're getting the shine of the metal leaf, and you're getting the shine of the acetate, too. Right? It's just beautiful.
This is on also one of our newer paper packs.
It is the Kindred Spirits. Yes,
so
one more week.
That later.
And the tan suede in the back, so beautiful. And gluing it down here and just putting a row of the Dazzles on top.
So
If friends were flowers.
So lots of...
I'd pick you. Very nice. Beautifully done. So, stamping, Dazzles,
stencils. That was... Oh, and embossing folder.
Right. So, lots of techniques. I just think it's absolutely glorious. And I hope you agree.
Have fun.